out of the gym. See what effect that has on his fight with Gianluca Branco for the European title.
We have more to come. It is the main event of the night. Khurtsidze against Toygonbayev. That is coming up directly after a short commercial break. So do stay with us. We'll be back here live in the Ukraine in a couple of minutes. And welcome back then live to Cherkasy in the Ukraine. And the main event of the night, Avtandil Khurtsidze, hugely popular fighter in these parts. And if you've not seen him before, the reasons why will become apparent quite early on here. All action, tremendous stamina at 5'4". He's not one of the tallest. His forte, burrow in deep, get to work to the body. And he's got very good hand speed as well. Only defeat on his record against the highly experienced middleweight Tony Marshall, who at the time had been in with some pretty big names as well, the likes of Fernando Vargas and Cesar Vasquez, who'd fought for 2 world titles. That was his last fight. Remember, he started his career in the USA before coming back east. I mean, it's not very often that happens, is it? I mean, usually they fight tooth and nail to go the other way.
Yeah, he's restarted his career in Ukraine in 2007 and unbeaten since then. And he calls himself the Tornado. He's Georgian, but boxing out of Ukraine, and you can see, yeah, the Tornado suits him. Sometimes takes a round to get going, and then just this relentless prowling.
It's a bit, I was going to say, it's a bit like watching Yakovenko, except with a bloke that can punch. Because he's a similar style, but it's all action. He's a great watch. As I say, you might well have seen him earlier on this year. We saw his fight against Jamel Baki.
Yeah, he took a round to get going in that one, and then had the Frenchman on the floor in the third, and he eventually forced him to quit in his corner after the 5th round. That was in Odessa. There's the referee, Giuseppe Corteroni, who's been around, knows his job. Decent referee, calm.
And so if you look at the... here comes the opponent, Toygonbayev, from Uzbekistan. Comes in with a record of 35-0. Like Khurtsidze, began his career in the USA before coming back to his homeland. And he's been in with some top contenders at this weight over the years. His career may well be turning onto a downward spiral as age begins to tell. He's 34 in January, but he's come back this year after defeat to Dmitry Pirog to post a victory, albeit against something of a non-entity, but it was a victory. So it's all about whether his body and mind have still got the motivation and ability at this level. As I said, look at the people he lost against. Kasim Umar, who lost against Jermaine Taylor for the WBC title. Keith Holmes, who was the WBC title holder, who beat Robert McCracken as well. Ian Gardner, who's coached by Goody Petronelli. Nadbegov, who actually lost this title, and Dmitry Pirog. So the only people that beat him are very, very good fighters indeed.
Yeah, I saw the Pirog fight, and he gave Pirog trouble in the 1st round before the Russian, who looks a class operator. Pirog took him to pieces and gave him a pounding before he stopped. He quit in the corner at the end of 5. Toygonbayev should have been stopped by the referee, in my opinion. He took too much. But we'll see whether that's had any effect on him. As you said, he's come back with a win. Now here's Khurtsidze.
Yeah, the lights go down, the flags start to wave, the fans get out of their seats, or some of them do, to welcome him in. And he's no upcoming prospect, Khurtsidze. He's 30 years old now. The Tornado from Kiev in the Ukraine continues to rack up the victories and moves slowly up the middleweight rankings. This is 3rd fight this year, so he's been busy. And a 4th defense of the WBA Intercontinental title, won last year. And since that victory over Javier Alberto Mamani, a 12-round majority decision, the fights seemingly have been getting tougher for Khurtsidze to navigate. 3 of the last 4 have gone the 12-round distance, including that thrilling fight against Attila Kovacs. So last time out against Jamel Baki, it was something of a rare stoppage. He's coming to the ring a bit slower than he normally comes into the ring. I mean, usually there's a few dancing, what look like dancing Cossacks, and he's bouncing around.
It's almost tame, isn't it? But No, he says, look, I'm ready for Felix Sturm now. Get me the fight if you can, I'll beat him. Well, they all say that, don't they? But he's ranked WBA number 4, WBO number 7. He's expecting something to happen in his career above this intercontinental level soon. He won't even be contemplating a setback here. Khurtsidze, very, very confident man.
The national anthems then are first.
Дамы и господа, гимн Грузии.
So the anthem's over and done with. It's time to get down to business then.
На профессиональном ринге провел 35 поединков, одержал 30 побед, 18 боев закончил досрочно.
So Toygonbayev, 33 years of age then. And basically everybody that fights Khurtsidze has got significant height and reach advantage, but very few people tend to make any use of it.
Yeah, Toygonbayev knows what he's doing. It's whether he can still do it at 33. He needs a little bit of time, and can he find the time? Can he use the ring well enough to do that? He's the type who's mechanical, methodical, knows what he's doing.
And there's no, let's be honest, there's no point in this guy now having meaningless nothing fights, is there?
No.
He's got to be getting something out of it.
He's got a following here now. The Georgians come down and support him, and wherever he fights, he's got people there rooting for him. They're coming busloads up from all over the place. And, you know, he's got some momentum going in his career, and he really enjoys it.
I want a correct fight, okay? Listen to my commands. Good luck.
So Khurtsidze getting ready for work. He's ranked, remember, 4th in the world by the WBA. He wants Felix Sturm. He said he'll go anywhere to fight him. In fact, he said he's prepared to take on anybody. He feels that he's ready. He's at the right time in his life. We'll find out now. Khurtsidze with the white gloves.
Yeah, and you can see straight away that he knows how to use his height as well. His lack of it, if you like. He knows how to burrow in and get close to someone. Already he's trying to put Toygonbayev under pressure, not by any punching, just using his feet to make him work straight away.
Backy down in the first round. I mean, he's almost impossible to hit as well. He's going in so low sometimes. Takes a decent left hand there, though.
Well, Toygonbayev knows what he's doing, and his left hand is a good shot. He can jab and he can hook off it. But he's, at his best, he was a real handful. When he beat Obakar, the Keith Holmes fight was close. He says he was robbed. Well, of course he would. You know, he knows what he's doing. To be in there for 10 rounds with those guys, win or lose, this is a man who knows his job. But the beating he took against Dmitry Pirog from round 3 onwards was really sustained, and that was December of last year, and I don't know how much that's really taken out of him. As you said before, the last fight he had was really just a get back in the ring exercise in Uzbekistan.
Well, he's back here now, and he's chosen a serious contender here, one that believes that he's got the capability to go all the way to a world title shot. You can see him just winding up those body shots, almost quite literally winding up a punch.
He's not doing too much at the moment, Khurtsidze. He just cracks up the pace round after round. Little cuffing punches there. This is when Toygonbayev's got to get a lead. He's got to steal the early rounds for me. He's got to use his good left hook.
Yeah, it did.
I think it just put him off balance. But the right hand set him up for it. Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's just got to build a lead.
Khurtsidze can't afford any off nights as he hunts down these big names. But as you said, he does start slow and he does build. His fight builds and his performance builds in its intensity as the rounds go on.
Toygonbayev knows about him. He's watched him on tape. He knows what to expect, and he's got his game plan. And the advantage he's got over some of the opponents Khurtsidze's faced is his experience and the fact that he's calm and he knows the business through and through. He won't panic just because he's under a bit of pressure.
So he's got
What's he doing now?
He has got a calm and relaxed demeanour about him, hasn't he, Toygonbayev?
Took a left hook there. I think he's done quite well in this opening round. He's scored with the cleaner punches, Toygonbayev. Perhaps expected him to do that as well. Fight hasn't really got going.
So no dramas in the first round of this fight then. And an introduction for Toygonbayev about, just in case he'd forgotten, what life was like competing at the top end of the scale.
Well, technically he wasn't worried at all by what Khurtsidze was doing in that first round, but that was only at half pace. Already got the end swell on the forehead there. Not sure whether there was any sign of any swelling, maybe. Maybe he came into it. He's done a lot of sparring for this fight. He said he'd done 150 rounds.
That's a lot of sparring, isn't it?
5 complete 12-round spars as well. That was the best punch. He landed a left hook towards the end of the round.
So round 2 then. Toygonbayev with the red gloves, Khurtsidze with the white.
Tried the right hand then, Toygonbayev, and so many times we've seen Khurtsidze fight, and I've seen him 3 or 4 times now, and the right hand's going over the top, and people just take time to get used to his size.
Well, again, a bit of showboating going on from Khurtsidze, and all that'll do is wind up his opponent here. He's not going to be able to take too many liberties with him, but he opens up a bit. Tries a few body shots, doesn't do an awful lot for Toygonbayev, who just brushes it off.
Yeah, he needs to take his time a little bit. I mean, that showboating to entertain the crowd rather than bother Toygonbayev. He's been around the block and back. That won't bother him in the slightest. And the little flurries won't either. He needs to get down to some serious work, Khurtsidze. Put some weight in his shots when he gets inside.
Not getting inside, and again, That left hook finding its target. Back onto the ropes, he gets defensive. Khurtsidze trying to just bludgeon his way through.
The first time Toygonbayev forced Khurtsidze backwards, he gets a warning from the referee. Technically he was right, his head was a little bit dangerous, but he would love to get Khurtsidze backed up. See whether he can manage it. Interesting that he tried so early.
Well, we've seen a few shock results in some of the live events we've covered this year.
Well, I think Toygonbayev's boxing well so far. He's taken a couple on the inside like there, but most of the time he's kept his boxing together.
Well, Khurtsidze won't be rethinking much at the moment. He won't be straying too much from the path that he set out in the 30 previous fights that he's had. It's one way that he fights. And nothing he likes better than literally to go in at close quarters and go toe-to-toe and start swinging. That's what he does.
He keeps threatening to do it, and his shots are still cuffing. They're still inside of the glove at the moment. He's not putting a great deal of quality into his work here. But he's still in low gear. A good uppercut, Toygonbayev. And the right hand over the top. Boxing well.
Well, brings a response from Khurtsidze.
And warned again, this time for using the head. Well, he just stood in front of Khurtsidze with his head hanging out, really.
He can absorb a good punch there, can he, Khurtsidze?
So far.
He's taken a few good shots, but this is pretty impressive stuff from Toygonbayev.
Yeah, the only stoppage on the Khurtsidze record, it came from a body shot in the 7th round against Tony Marshall, way back. One-sided on the cards, though. He didn't have much success in that one. I've given Toygonbayev the first 2 rounds. The judges, John Coyle and Mickey Van from the UK, Yuri Koptsev from Russia. How will they see it?
He's looking quite relaxed and in control. No real pressure, well, not as much pressure on him as there is on him. He's the man that thinks he's good enough, remember. And, well, you might have seen Sebastian Sylvester, who's another one he fancies, on Eurosport a couple of nights ago. Not been able to impose himself, Khurtsidze, yet on this fight. Still a long way to go. This Intercontinental crown, which is held by Khurtsidze. Not on the agenda tonight, is losing it. So there's a 12-round possibility here. And he's been training with that in mind. As you said, Bob, he's gone through, what, 5 complete 12-rounders and 5 10-rounders. So he's obviously expecting this to go some considerable distance.
I think that's the way you have to think. He's in against a seasoned operator, all right, a man who was stopped a couple of fights ago. But he knows that he's just got to keep working for the whole 12 rounds. That was the best shot so far from Khurtsidze, right over the top. And he'll keep the pressure rolling. He's just been in low gear so far. He'll crank it up. It's up to Toygonbayev to find some space, to use his left-hand lead. Has he got the legs to do 12 rounds himself?
Yeah, that's the big question. He's 4 years older nearly than Khurtsidze. But he still looks in decent shape.
Yes, he does. He's just not setting the pace. And that means that as the fight wears on, it could get harder for him in terms of stamina. Body shot Khurtsidze as well.
It's the volume of these body shots that he'll throw, and you'll see the number of them growing throughout the middle and the latter rounds as he begins to get to more serious work. You can see him just beginning to up his work rate now. For the first real time, gets his man trapped on the ropes, and again that right hand swinging uppercut, switches the punches from body to head.
Yeah, not all of them land with the knuckle part of the glove. He slaps and he cuffs, but then he straightens them as well. He throws enough hard, hurtful punches mixed in with the others He just likes to keep the volume coming.
See, when he swings with that right hand and he misses, he almost kisses the canvas with the follow-through.
The body shot, that good shot again, and Toygonbayev just dipped after that one. He's more uncomfortable under the pressure in this round. Nothing behind those jabs at all. Just needs a little bit too much time at the moment. The man from Uzbekistan with the red gloves.
No, okay.
Fighting like a man at the moment who feels, you think, that he's going to get his man at some stage in the not too distant future. He's just easing his way into things. Taking a few decent shots, took a good body shot then, good left hook to the body then from Khurtsidze.
Yeah, but Khurtsidze was messing around again. And he can't afford to do that against this guy.
He loves the notoriety, doesn't he? He's got big fan appeal. He's got a lot of supporters over. That's a lovely uppercut there. Really was.
Well, I think Khurtsidze just took his foot off the gas in the last half minute then. I think he still did enough. That little burst from Toygonbayev will have given him some confidence again, which he needed. But Khurtsidze showed some amateurism then. He just, cut to the left eye there.
Yeah.
Or is it? No, it's just the graze. He had that. That's the cut that he had against Pirog.
That was a fantastic shot. Great uppercut then. And he just stopped him in his tracks. He followed it up with one as well. That was the best punch of the round. But if Khurtsidze, if he starts to get a bit ahead of himself, a couple of reminders there.
There weren't there? And he's just looked to his corner. He started showboating, and he was in control of the round. His pressure was counting, and he just almost lost concentration and stood off. As soon as he had the room, Toygonbayev put the classiest shots in. Well, hopefully for his sake, Khurtsidze will learn the lesson, or will Toygonbayev think, OK, as soon as I get the time to pounce, I will do.
Looked good on a couple of occasions in that round when he really did cut loose. That's why they call him the Tornado, Khurtsidze. So away we go, round 4 of a scheduled 12 here. Toygonbayev in the black with the red gloves, Khurtsidze, the defending champion, with the white. He's trying to defend his body, isn't he, when he gets back on the ropes there. Toygonbayev from taking too much of a beating, but again, an overhand right then from Toygonbayev just stops him in his tracks. The right hand doing the damage again from Toygonbayev.
Yeah, lovely boxing under pressure. That was 3-4 punches on target. He's boxing well, Toygonbayev. It's just a case of, can he hold it together as the pressure comes? Can he find a punch to really stagger Khurtsidze? That'd be a huge bonus for him.
We've seen the big hitters go down, big names with big reputations. So who's going back to Stefan Kretschmann when Baktov put him down in the first round?
Yeah, that was earlier this year, wasn't it? Unbeaten, record ruined, and Khurtsidze, he's seasoned, he's strong, and he knows Toygonbayev. He's given him full respect in the build-up. He said, look, I've watched him on tape time and time again. I know what I'm expecting. I know this is a good fighter. Well, he can't lose concentration then. Halfway through this round.
Again, Khurtsidze not really coming off on top at the moment in this opening minute and a half, but just getting it again and just trying to rough his man up. That's when he's at home.
It's almost jogging in there, cupping the gloves around the head, got away with that one, referee didn't see it.
And he's bending, isn't he, almost when they're on the ropes to get face to face. Takes a good left hand. Toygonbayev again, and there you can see that left hand, that left hook rather, of Khurtsidze trying to force its way through. Followed it up with a right uppercut, but he's missing with some of these big shots.
Well, he is missing, but he's keeping the pressure on. Toygonbayev still there, tries to buy himself some room, but he can't get the punches off quick enough. And he's just taking too many there just to win this round at the moment. He's got to if he's going to turn this around, he's got to produce something fairly dramatic in the last half minute. Yes. He's just been harried out of this.
Strength sapping stuff, this. He's been on the run for the majority of the round.
Head again from Toygonbayev, and this time the referee absolutely right. He just dropped it in between Khurtsidze's gloves then. Oh, good little burst at the end. Khurtsidze just saying, come on then, let's have some more of that.
Again, trying to back him up on the ropes and finish with a flurry of punches. And it's a bit scrappy, that round from Khurtsidze.
Yeah, but he was the one working. He kept the pressure going, and enough of his shots got through. I think Toygonbayev landed the odd one, but most of the time he was just under pressure, wanting a bit too much time.
Starting to blow for the first time in that round as well, wasn't he? Trying to suck in air.
Yeah, a little bit, but I think there were signs that he didn't like the pressure, he didn't like the pace. He wants to find a way to drop the pace down. He had his successes, had one little burst. I think that was it, off the ropes. 3-4 punches, good rally.
But if he wants to keep this man out of his face and off his back, he's got to be doing it for a lot longer than just a 3-punch combination.
Yeah, he has, because the moment Khurtsidze gets the chance, he's straight back, swarming in.
So round 5 then of the 12. This Intercontinental middleweight title held by Khurtsidze.
Just really looks as if it's poised at an interesting stage now, doesn't it? Fight just developing.
Again, those punches just smacking on the side of Toygonbayev's gloves.
Well, they're slaps, but when he straightens it, that was a better left hook. Sometimes he just does enough to keep an opponent occupied and to just keep him just concentrating on defense, and then suddenly he lets the better shots go.
And switches to the body once more. You can almost feel him wincing in pain, Toygonbayev, when he takes those.
Toygonbayev tried to get him on the back foot in round 2, just briefly, got himself a warning for the referee because he used his head, but it was a good idea, obviously, if he can try and do that again. And nothing he's doing at the moment is making Khurtsidze take even half a step back.
He's happier now as these rounds are going by. Toygonbayev, he's not able to get out the way as he was in the earlier rounds. He's getting caught a lot more often. He's taking a lot more punishment.
Yeah, and his mouth sagging open halfway through this round. I don't know, he just sucking in a bit of air, but you can see him just wanting too much time still. Doesn't like the pace, doesn't like the pressure.
Khurtsidze, though, still looking for a big, clean shot here.
And he's just prowling forward, isn't he? He's having more and more success as this round's going on. He'll take volleys of shots from time to time, but he's just the type who just breaks people's hearts because they may catch him clean with 3-4 punches and he just walks straight through them. That body shot was a good one, and Toygonbayev came up from air after that one.
Looking now visibly more fatigued than he has done at any other point of the fight, and you can see just a stumble there as he came off the ropes, Toygonbayev.
He's just trying to buy himself a room, but he can't get the punches off. He's not thinking fast enough. Little prods and pokes, but no real commitment behind what he's doing now.
Well, here's the big question maybe he's asking himself at this very moment. He's 34, how much he really does want to still be involved at this level of the game, and Khurtsidze again playing to the crowd as he does in every fight, and just as we said right at the outset, it gradually builds, doesn't it, in its intensity from round to round to round to round until he eventually finds his peak in the latter stages.
Yeah, sometimes there's not a lot of quality, there's not a lot of obvious class about what he's doing, but he's very good at what he does, and he just keeps the pressure going. He's an old-fashioned pressure fighter, and that's when he's dangerous. He straightened that punch from a hook into an uppercut and caught Toygonbayev cleanly.
What about Felix Stemmer? I mean, if you put him in a ring with one of the champions at the moment, in particular Sylvester or Sturm? Would you fancy
Sturm,
him?
Obviously, no, I wouldn't. I think Sturm, even now, Sturm is perhaps not what he was, but Sturm would have the boxing skills to keep him at bay. He's still fresh enough, clever enough.
What about if you were Kelly Pavlik?
No, I don't. Again, I don't think he's at that level. But he's a handful, and he'd be a handful for a while.
And he's a handful here in round 6. Coming up to the halfway point in this fight. And you'd have to say at the moment it looks odds against Toygonbayev actually surviving for the full 12 rounds, but you never know. Is he going to stage a recovery, get his second wind, find out how to keep this relentless pressure from Khurtsidze at bay?
He landed 2 or 3 right hands early on, but then Khurtsidze just came straight through. More commitment, more belief in what he's doing. And he's a handful for anybody. He'd be a handful for Sebastian Sylvester for a while, the IBF champion. I don't know whether he'd win it, but he'd certainly give him problems. Just with the prowling pressure. Sylvester, one of the most improved fighters at world level, really improved a lot and can adapt to what happens in a fight now much more than he ever could. And he was on his way up. And Toygonbayev getting his punches off in patches here. Can he do it for the second half of the round as well?
Decent start then to round 6 from Toygonbayev. And again, it's all about being able to, for him, maintain that level of performance. That was a good right hand there that found its way through, but they're just brushed off as if they don't exist. As another barrage of punches come his way. Left hook to the body, right hand.
Yeah, again, the same thing. Some just slaps from Khurtsidze, but cuffs and slaps, and he straightens one, and he's got a bit of power when he does that. Toygonbayev fighting back well in this round. Not a lot in it at the moment. Good right hand.
Great right hand from Toygonbayev, but again, it's like it didn't exist in Khurtsidze's world. Didn't even notice it.
No, but he came in and he wanted to just put his arms behind Toygonbayev for the first time. I think he did feel that one. But Toygonbayev needed to build on it, and he took too long. That's better from him. Khurtsidze trying to play the mind games. Here he goes.
And again, Toygonbayev this time just shakes his head as the punches, again, like you said, look a little bit like slaps. They're not, when he does straighten them up, they do carry a bit more weight, a bit more power, do a bit more damage, but not at the moment. He's surviving and excelling in periods, is Toygonbayev.
Well, I think he's done okay in this round. He's stemmed the flow. I don't know whether he's done enough to win the round, but he's at least made it very close and broken the rhythm of Khurtsidze, which was what was on his mind. Good right hand. I think maybe he has shaded it.
Yeah, stopped him in his tracks momentarily, and that's brought a smile to his face. And at the halfway stage, have you got it at the halfway stage?
Well, I've still got it level, but he's damage to the nose, that's nothing. Yeah, I gave Toygonbayev the first 2 rounds, Khurtsidze the next 3, and I thought he just edged that one. I think Khurtsidze just stopped thinking for a while in that round. But he's prowling forward, and you just never know what the judges are seeing. They could see it, you know, give him the points for his aggression, for his wading forward.
Yeah, the judges, 2 from the UK and 1 from Russia. But impossible to go through a career like Toygonbayev, where you were coached by Kenny Adams, who coached some of the A-lists, Corrales, Frankie Lyles and Kennedy McKinney, and not pick up a thing or two. All those big nights in with some names, some big names, been around big-time coaches as well. I thought there might have been a bit of a survival instinct just about to kick in. And now he's come out looking a little bit more refreshed, Toygonbayev, at the start of this 7th round, where he's going to instill a few questions in the mind of Khurtsidze or not. That's another thing.
I think that takes some doing. He's got to hurt him and get his attention, and at the moment he's just fiddling around here, but he is getting his punches off. You're right, he's looking better than he did in round 5 when he was sucking in air from time to time.
And good combination there from Toygonbayev. And the tornado at the moment due to something akin to a bit of a mild breeze.
It's getting caught on the way in. They're not particularly dangerous punches, but they were scoring. Knuckle part of the glove clean. And again, that right hand. And Khurtsidze, he's just not able to get his pressure working at the moment. We've still got 2 minutes in this round to go.
Well, kept him at distance. Looks the much cleaner in terms of his boxing skills. Khurtsidze looking a bit ragged. Again, that right hand too far to travel. Certainly at the moment this is Toygonbayev's round.
And that's what he wants. Khurtsidze back on the ropes if he can get him there. Half the round's gone by. Is Khurtsidze just playing around? Is he going to really get the adrenaline flowing and take over in the second half? Is he letting Toygonbayev have a little spell, try and draw the sting out of him?
I'll tell you what, we had a disappointment from Nuzhenenko in the first round, this first fight rather, and this is proving to be slightly disappointing from Khurtsidze's standpoint.
Oh, Toygonbayev boxing well. Minute to go, and he's picking the clean.
Good right hand again, left hook to the body too, and Khurtsidze again, his response looking a bit predictable, and Toygonbayev looking happy in soaking up that pressure.
Yeah, he blocked most of it. A couple of cuffing right hands to the head. He's blocking most on the arms, but that's the left hook. That's the best shot of the round so far from Khurtsidze, and here he comes, the final minute burst to try and impress the judges.
It's all very predictable how he manages it. Has Toygonbayev punched himself out in this round? Has he got anything left to survive? Anything left that he can impose in this round? Oh, and he's just wildly swung with that right hand. Well, Khurtsidze thinks it's all a bit of a laugh and is happy to join in the joke.
A little nod of respect from Toygonbayev. They just enjoyed that.
Well, inside the final 10 seconds, this has been a good round again for Toygonbayev.
Yeah, but he's working so hard to get that little edge. He's boxed well then, and Khurtsidze, well, he needs to concentrate harder, start work earlier, get the pressure going again.
Well, he's practiced, he's sparred long and hard for this fight. Looks as if he's going to need every inch of that preparation, every minute of that preparation.
This will be the left hand that he landed towards the end. That was his best punch so far, but look, no effect on Toygonbayev. He just swayed off balance a little bit, but his eyes were clear all the time. Boxed well.
That was it, where he'd reached and just lost his footing. He clearly is a man who is not short of self-confidence in his own ability, that when the final bell goes, he's going to be the winner, is he, Khurtsidze? I mean, he doesn't look worried at all.
He's just at home, isn't he? He says boxing's my life, and you can see why he means it. You know, he's just prowling forward.
But in round 8, he's still got things to do in this to win this.
Yep, this fight's all there for the winning, and nothing much behind those little flurries from Toygonbayev. But every so often he cracks in a right hand, keeps on the move, stops Khurtsidze getting his rhythm going. And that's so important to him, because he prowls forward and he doesn't throw just one punch. He just keeps it going. Well, that's all right just in doing that, but Toygonbayev's scoring.
Precisely. This is what he wasn't doing in rounds 5 and 6. It looked as if the fight was slipping away from him, but he staged a great recovery over the last 2 rounds and has arguably dominated both of them. And he's found a rhythm, he's found a means of actually stopping this man in his tracks, forcing him to think.
Yeah, there's nothing behind his punches at times, and he's just keep me away type punches. That's better from Khurtsidze, but he's got the space that he didn't have a couple of rounds ago. Well, now, Khurtsidze, you've not seen him get in that kind of range and not throw anything. He's normally busy and throwing stuff. Looks, I hate to say he looks stale. I'm not sure he does, but it's just in the back of my mind, you know, he's just taking a little bit longer to get going than he normally does.
Danger of running out of rounds, and that was a right hand that actually stopped Khurtsidze right in his tracks. That wasn't a slip. He had to make sure he realigned himself pretty quickly there again. And once more,
cut on the left eye now, and he's saying it's a head. He's complaining.
Oh, that's
the same cut he had against Dmitry Pirog. Exactly the same place. Old cut reopened.
Well, they're quite lenient with the cuts over here.
Yeah, I know. I think the referee said head clash. I'm sure that's what he was saying to the judges.
And a good uppercut as well.
If it has to be stopped because of the cut, it will go to the scorecards.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it stood at this particular stage. If it did stop it again, a good uppercut, right uppercut from Toygonbayev.
The pressure's increased again from Khurtsidze, and he's just cranking it up. I think he's just got himself back into gear here. There's a left hand again. The cuts bothered Toygonbayev as well.
He's got about a half a minute just over to survive to get back into his corner, but they can do some work on it.
Yep, shooting glances to ringside. The referee wants the doctor in to have a look at this now. Does he, or is he having a good look himself? No, he wants the doctor to look.
Well, it's not surprising, really. We saw the graze. You said you thought he got cut, but it was, as you said, a graze in that first round, that old cut that's opened up against Toygonbayev.
What's he saying?
No,
it's over.
That's it.
Points, it's going to the scorecards, I'm sure. It will go to the scorecards now. It will go to a technical decision. We'll have to wait and see. But he's ruled that old cut that he suffered against Dmitry Pirog too bad for the fight to continue. It was caused by a clash of heads. So it'll go to a technical decision.
Could be interesting, couldn't it? Because the last two rounds have been two pretty good rounds from this. Not a lot in this, is there?
Yeah, but we'll see. They're claiming victory. They're claiming victory. Khurtsidze's patting him on the back and laughing. We'll see. It's close. I wouldn't like to say who's won that. Depends how they were scoring, if they're scoring round 8.
I'll tell you what was funny about Toygonbayev. His coach was the former manager of Baktov, who created those headlines we talked about when he did Kretschmann. So maybe he's involved in another big upset here. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. There it is.
There's the head clash that caused the cut, that have reopened the old cut, and immediately Toygonbayev reacted. He felt that straight away. You know, the way it is when you're fighting someone who's 5'4", sometimes you have to bend down to his level. He comes swarming in, and yeah, there's the effect of it.
Автошка, молодец. В прошлом раунде вообще был молодец.
Well, he has had he's had a pretty rough night, actually, at times in this fight.
See the marks of battle, can't you? I think the fight was all there to be won over the last 4 rounds, and it was open as to whether Khurtsidze's strength would take him way clear, or whether Toygonbayev would be able to keep the boxing together. It had ebbed and flowed. You got the feeling at one point that Khurtsidze was going to roll right through him, and then Toygonbayev showed he was of sterner stuff than that. Khurtsidze at times a little bit disappointing because he just let his concentration lapse.
Well,
we shall see.
Is it going to be a second defeat on the career file of Avtandil Khurtsidze? Hasn't lost since 2005.
He is at home, but that shouldn't make any difference. John Coyle and Mickey Vann from the UK will score it as they see it. Yuri Koptsev of Russia, I'm sure he will too. But we'll see what they're taking a bit of time. Toygonbayev is unhappy in the corner, as if he's heard something. And all I'll say, it was a close fight at the end. You could give it one way or the other by 1 or 2 rounds.
Well, tell you what, they've put on a couple of good events we've seen here this year. K2, which is partly of the under the ownership of the Klitschko. So
That cut has widened. That's much worse. That's the same one that he had against Pirog, but that spread right across the eyelid. That's horrible. He won't fight for a while after that.
Here we go then.
Техническим нокаутом в 8-м раунде. Победу в этом поединке одержал Avtandil Khurtsidze.
Well, Khurtsidze has got the decision.
Yep, we haven't heard any scorecards, but he's got it on a technical decision in round 8.
He's not happy, is he?
As far as I can see, unless there's been an overruling and they've called it a stoppage. We'll have to go and check that.
Well, he's